If you grew up in the 1980s, you've probably noticed something a little strange about yourself. You move through the modern world feeling slightly out of step. Not wrong, just different. But I don't mean nostalgia for cassette tapes or Saturday morning cartoons. I mean the way you see people, time, effort, and meaning. And here's what nobody really tells you. That upbringing quietly shaped traits that are becoming rare now. Have you ever wondered why you feel older than your age, and yet oddly timeless? If you grew up in the 1980s, you were raised in a world that no longer exists, not just technologically, but psychologically. You learned patience because nothing loaded instantly. You learned boredom because there was nowhere to escape to. You learned presence because when someone wasn't in front of you, they simply weren't there. Nobody tells you this, but that kind of environment shapes the nervous system in a very particular way. It gives you depth, yes, but it can also make you feel out of place now. Do you ever feel exhausted by constant noise, updates, and opinions? Do you ever sense that people talk more but say less? Do you ever feel quietly frustrated when effort is replaced by shortcuts? Here's the paradox. The traits that once helped you survive and mature are now misunderstood or even penalized. And this is where it gets interesting, because what if everything we've been taught to fix about ourselves is actually the evidence of something rare and valuable forming underneath? Let me share with you what growing up in the 1980s really gave you and why it matters now more than ever. Let me share 5 rare traits you likely possess if you grew up in the 1980s. Not personality quirks, not nostalgia, but deep structural ways of being that quietly shape how you move through life. And we'll start gently. 1. You understand the value of waiting. The first thing you must understand is this. You learned how to wait without being told it was a virtue. Waiting for a song to come on the radio, waiting for film to be developed, waiting for a letter, a phone call, a knock at the door. Waiting wasn't framed as suffering, it was simply part of life. Think of it like muddy water. If you leave it alone, it settles and becomes clear. But if you keep stirring it, refreshing, checking, scrolling, it never does. I once knew someone who grew visibly anxious when nothing was happening. Silence felt threatening to them. But for you, silence feels familiar. Here's the profound part. Waiting taught you trust. Trust that things unfold in their own time. And that's why you often feel uneasy in a culture obsessed with immediacy. This is why. The second, even more important trait is this. You learned how to be alone without being lonely. You figured things out yourself. You explored. You made mistakes without documenting them. No GPS, no constant validation, just trial, error, and imagination. It's like learning to swim by actually getting into the water, not by reading about swimming. Watch what happens in nature. A tree doesn't ask permission to grow. It responds to sunlight, soil, and time. And so did you. This is why you don't panic when guidance disappears. This is why you trust your instincts more than algorithms. But here's what nobody tells you. That independence can feel isolating in a world that expects constant sharing. And yet, it's also your quiet strength. The third thing, which is perhaps the most insidious, is this. You know the difference between appearance and substance. You grew up before life became a stage play broadcast 24/7, before everyone became both actor and audience. So you sense when something is hollow, when words are performative, when confidence is borrowed rather than earned. It's like the finger pointing at the moon. Most people stare at the finger. You instinctively look past it. Consider how uncomfortable that makes others. When you don't buy into the performance, you disrupt it. This is why you're often labeled too serious or too deep. But depth isn't heaviness, it's clarity. And clarity can be unsettling. The fourth, the most misunderstood trait of all, you were allowed to struggle without being rescued immediately. You fell, you failed, you endured boredom, rejection, and discomfort.
Not because no one cared, but because resilience was assumed to be learnable. Think of a garden. If you pull out every weed the moment it appears, the roots weaken. But careful resistance strengthens the soil. Even ancient wisdom understood this. Even Jesus walked away to be alone in the wilderness. This is why you can sit with uncomfortable emotions, why you don't need everything to be labeled, explained, or solved instantly. You're not cold, you're steady, and that steadiness is rare now. And the fifth, most critical trait of all, you know that not everything meaningful can be measured. Not likes, not views, not productivity graphs. You remember doing things simply because they felt alive. Creative play without an audience, connection without documentation. It's like trying to pour the ocean into a teacup. Some experiences refuse to be reduced. This is why modern definitions of success feel empty to you. This is why you quietly ask deeper questions. Is this real? Is this enough? And this is where it gets dangerous, because a world that forgets meaning tries to convince you that you're the problem, but you're not. So here we are, back to where we started. All of these traits connect because they point to one truth. You were shaped by a slower, more human rhythm. Patience, self-trust, discernment, resilience, meaning. The beautiful secret is this: what feels like outdated wiring is actually timeless wiring. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are carrying an operating system designed for depth in an age obsessed with speed. And yes, this can be lonely, but it also makes you a quiet anchor. Someone who remembers how to be present, how to wait, how to see. And that matters more than you realize. So the next time you feel out of place, pause. Remember what you carry. You don't need to rush to belong. You don't need to flatten yourself to fit the moment. You are the universe remembering a slower dance, and the dance never ends.